Okay, here we go. Welcome to State of Play on Mint Press News. It's Monday night, July 15th, and we are live from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, one of my least favorite neighborhoods in New York City, but needs must. It's a great place if you want to grab a $15 coffee or something. So I was going to do tonight's episode on the shambles that was the NATO summit last week, the hemming and hawing about a strike on a hospital in Ukraine, as if striking hospitals in modern warfare hasn't now been established and normalized through Israel's unchallenged state policy of striking and raiding over like 30 hospitals in Gaza. But don't worry, we're going to be talking about another instance of political hypocrisy tonight. Because remember, political violence is bad, and it's only okay when Western leaders instigate and enable it. So, of course, we know what we're going for tonight. It's been all over the news. Everyone and their mother's talking about it. So trying to assassinate former President Trump, for instance, as a lone wolf shooter is bad. But, headshotting children in Palestine as an Israeli sniper as a matter of unspoken policy, well, that's surprisingly okay. So we're going to be talking about the assassination attempt on the former president. So soon to be president again, the conspiracies surrounding it, my analysis of what actually happened, and we may disagree, which is okay. We're not going to agree on everything. That would be weird. And what all this means for America going forward, and what we need to do or can do if we can do anything at all. So just a heads up, there's a lot of information floating around right now. So I'm going to be interacting very heavily with the comments section and try to address as many questions and ideas as possible once we get into it. We usually have like the Q&A like 10 minutes at the end, but we're going to be doing it the whole time. So, but before we get into that, while everyone keeps hopping onto the show, I have to address why I look so exhausted and I appear to have no voice. So we were protesting a stolen land auction in Kew Garden Hills in Queens, New York City yesterday. And things got, well, I think you would call it a little contentious. So, the pro-Palestine protesters generally don't encounter stiff counter-protests, but anything around Flushing is going to be pretty sympathetic to Israel, and to say the least. So bear with me. So, our pre-main topic is the stolen land auctions, and we're going to circle back to that at the end. As we call them, there's still a thing that's going on as bold as brass and in contravention of international law, right? So a lot of these people that are engaging in these stolen land auctions in New York City and other places, generally in New England or on the West Coast in LA, one of the things that struck me and struck us is like they generally don't understand why we were there beyond like we hate them. Like they actually don't think that the land is stolen. And on a very basic level, though, when you take something that is legally not yours and you don't give it back, that's called theft, right? That's so they were auctioning plots for illegal settlements, essentially within the 1967 borders, which under international law those lands belong to Palestine. So they actually ended up canceling the event when we showed up, but then it just evolved into this protest, counter-protest. The NYPD called in for backup. It was a little more scrappy than we expected. I mean, it definitely did pop off in a couple instances. And just like always, any violence that occurs always comes either from the police or from the side of the pro-Israel crowd. So in a curious turn of events, we had one guy get arrested for assault of one of you may follow him on Instagram. His name's Jacob Berger. You can follow his Instagram if you want more of the video itself. But yes, one guy sucker punched him in the face. He got rolled up by the cops. They put him in the back of a cop car, but he ended up getting released. Can you imagine if, someone in the pro-Palestine side punched someone in the face, you'd probably be hit with simple assault, maybe even felony assault. Yeah, but we're living in a time of double standards. So, yeah, now that everybody's kind of filtering in, I think we're just going to move on to the thing that everybody's just really itching to talk about. It's become a meme. There's a lot of absurdity, the incompetence, the resignation that the world's going to Hades in a handbasket can all be summed up kind of like in the gallows humor of this meme. It involves the Titanic. FBI and Secret Service watching somebody with a rifle try to access a rooftop next to a Donald Trump rally. And of course, the joke here is like there was no security or something. It was so incompetent that, it must have been an inside job. Either it was involved such incompetence, or somebody just let it happen, or it was conspiracy, or maybe it was all three. Yeah. So tonight we're going to explain that. So in case you aren't tracking, we're just going to contextualize this real quick. So 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks was identified by the FBI on Sunday as the shooter behind the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump during a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday evening that left one bystander dead and two others critically injured. So far, where we stand in the investigation, according to the FBI, there's no indication of any mental health issues, which is surprising because usually white male shooters, that's what the first thing they go with, right? The FBI says that Crooks was not known to the agency prior to the incident. He had a limited social media presence. Usually shooters post online. They have some sort of manifesto. They have not yet identified an ideology associated with Crooks. The agency is interviewing his family and friends and investigating apparently his phone and internet history for any evidence so as to understand his motivations. President Joe Biden said urged people on Sunday to refrain from making assumptions. Quote, let the FBI do. I don't have my aviators with me, but let the FBI do their job and their partner agencies do their job, he said. So this guy is kind of confusing. He's a registered Republican. He's a donor to progressives. So state voting public records show that Crooks was a registered Republican, while Federal Election Commission documents show that he was a donor with the same name and address and gave $15 to Act Blue, the Democratic fundraising apparatus, on January 20th, 2021. That's not a lot of money as a donation, certainly more than I've ever voted to a Democratic PAC, So the donation was earmarked for the Progressive Turnout Project. Look, his personal details, though, they don't really matter with respect to the attempt on Saturday. His unorthodox background, lack of political manifesto really makes him seem kind of like a cipher, like mysterious and therefore rife for conspiracy theories. And I believe it is my job to give alternatives to conspiracy by talking about natural incompetence, how interagency screw-ups happen all the time, why they happen even within elite units, and why, from my experience in military special operations, I've come to believe through my own observations and, again, experiences in Hanlon's razor. That's the main theme for tonight. Never attribute to malice, which is adequately explained by stupidity. So in philosophy, essentially, right, a razor is a principle or rule of thumb that allows one to eliminate, like shave off as an eraser, unlikely explanations for a phenomenon or avoid unnecessary actions. Occam's razor applies to dismissing this idea of the deep state interference as well. Like the fewer moving parts and the fewer involved entities and individuals, the more sense it makes in principle. So again, I'm just giving an alternative, a way to interpret a certain set of data. That's all. So we're going to apply the razor here, and you can take it or leave it. We don't have to agree on everything again, but these are counter arguments to conspiracy that are just helpful to be aware of. So let's get your initial reaction. We've got I think he was a dude who hated Trump. I'm sure there are many who do. Yeah. Um, yeah, nobody should be able to access an elevated position. Okay, yeah. I mean, we're going to go into incompetence with that. So, first, I just want to say we're going to start playing some of these Trump videos. I found an entire compilation. All the sound is synced up between a lot of the footage from the rally, and we're going to look at this a couple of times, and then we're going to break it down. So first of all, neutralizing a shooter that gets off 8 shots, kills a spectator, injures 2 more, and hits a former president in the head is not a win. There were egregious failures in coverage and protocol within law enforcement and the Secret Service at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday night. 100%. It should have been impossible for the 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, to gain access to a rooftop 400 to 450 feet from the podium and set up a sniper position in the most obvious vantage place possible. Thus, the immediate proliferation of these conspiracy theories, and it pulled in like the A-listers of deep state villainy. Like a Mel Gibson fan account was like posting on social media platforms, and it was like really it like brought in Hillary Clinton and George Soros and Barack Obama, and just about everybody has been tapped for like the Avengers of the deep state conspiracy theory world, right? And all willful and glaring misinformation aside that's come out, the shooter posted no death threats and had only a nominal social media presence, as we said before. The details and motivations, again, are a temporary distraction and will not change the irrevocably altered political landscape for the upcoming election. So, according to an Axios report, an unnamed senior House Democrat stated that we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. The Democratic National Committee is in complete shambles, and even the most ardent and optimistic Biden supporters must see the writing on the wall. Even if the president was replaced by a potential dark horse candidate at the 11th hour, who could compete with one of the most iconic political photographs of the past decade? As much as I don't like the dude, I can say that this is an editorial show. The picture kind of does go hard. I mean, there are harder ones. There's like kids throwing rocks at tanks, but it's pretty good as far as political photography goes, right? So ultimately, the Democratic Party lacks vitality, and the desperation behind the adage "vote blue no matter who" is like transforming into political fatalism. The efforts of the DNC and associated media outlets to discredit the former president have only served to endear him to his base and reduce a mounting social, economic, and political maelstrom into the figure of Trump. Like all these things that are wrong with our country are being, through their narrative, embodied squarely on the personal landscape of Donald Trump, instead of actually talking about what I'm going to get into in a second. So like these vast corporate forces, right, that dominate our political system have reduced the middle class, instigated a state of perpetual war and interventionism, and created a solidifying police and security state that will not be significantly affected by who sits in the Oval Office. It just won't be. So it is true that under a renewed Trump presidency, because it's pretty much a shoe-in right now, we will experience an unprecedented level of systemic change in terms of personal and environmental protections, the slashing of social programs, more tax cuts for the rich, and an effort to institutionalize Trumpism. But all of this would have happened under a Democratic president, just a little bit slower. So former President Trump will not drain the swamp, right? He is the swamp. But then again, so is Biden. So let's actually talk about the shooting real quick. All right. Just backing up real quick. We're going to rewind this footage. Okay. So first of all, I'm just going to talk at you for a second. And I don't have any funny graphics. Sorry for the exposition. So basically, when the president goes somewhere, or anyone who has a security detachment, there are of a certain amount of importance. There are local law enforcement you have to coordinate with. There are at the local, state, and federal level. There's the FBI that were part of the security detail. There's the Secret Service, which is not part of the Department of Justice, which the FBI is part of the DOJ. The Secret Service is part of the Department of Treasury. Different departments, different agencies, different law enforcements that operate at different levels, right? So they all have to coordinate. And when they do that, there's going to be a place nearby, maybe even on site, to the presidential rally. And this is called a TOC, a Tactical Operations Command. And they have liaisons that are plugged into communications, imagery, from local, state, federal, and different departments, right? And so they're all trying to work together and communicate. And this obviously causes massive problems just naturally, okay? The miscommunications, generally all the communication systems are the same. I see, brother, are you stupid? Trump and Biden are both capitalists. No, I mean, yeah. I mean, I might be stupid, but yes, I know that they're both capitalists and they serve the interests of capital. All right, I'm not going to get distracted by that again. All right. Before we get into staged it, not staged it, we have all these different agencies working together. And we have seen firsthand how incompetent and how little training some of these police officers have. Okay. So just accepting those things that we've seen with our own eyes, we're going to move forward. So when the president goes to look at a site or look at or go to speak at a place, there will be an advance team from the Secret Service who examine the site. They liaise with local law enforcement and they get plugged into local police intelligence, like who are threats in this area, who are like violent criminals, who like pops on a registry that has a gun. Like they're all looking at this thing. So one of the things that could be explained is like this guy didn't really have a ghost. The gun didn't really have a presence. He wasn't saying anything crazy that would be picked up by local police intelligence networks. He had a rifle that was registered to his father, who didn't have any dirt on him at all. So obviously that doesn't explain away anything, but it is something that you have to take into consideration. So I think, you know what, I'm going to pull up a slide of, I'm just going to share screen. Okay. I think I've got slides of the shooting place here. Okay. Let me see. Is this working? Nope. Oh, I don't have permission. Sorry. Okay. I'm bad at tech, guys. I'm going to figure it out in a second. Correct. This is my experience when I have dealt with the Secret Service. Yeah, so you have all these different departments working together. They send the advance team. They're supposed to look at the grounds, right? And sweep the grounds. I don't know what. Again, I'm sorry. I don't have the freaking wherewithal to pull it up. Just bear with me here. Technical issues. Just, an analog guy trying to make it in a digital world. Okay, I'm going to have to just pull it up off my Twitter page. Okay. Now I can do it. Present, share screen. Oh, thank God it worked. All right. So, yes, they'd send in an advanced team, and let me make this bigger. Okay, so there's the Trump stage, right? You have one sniper position here. You have the location of suspect's body. So the advanced team, what they would do when they come in here, yes, they would survey the grounds. They would basically search everything up to I'm not sure what their exact tactics, techniques, and procedures are, but probably within 500 meters, at least half a kilometer of everything that's in here. I mean, that would make sense. They would go through these buildings. It wouldn't be an in-depth search. It would just be looking for sniper positions, hide sites, any pre-staged equipment, like maybe a gun hidden somewhere pre-staged. Like there was a ladder, which is how he got up onto the roof, that was pre-staged that they totally missed. And we don't know if he put it there or a maintenance guy left it out, but nobody saw that there was roof access. So that was a big mistake as well. All right. So they have the snipers here, and they should be able to cover like these trees here, the building here. This was a sound stage, so there's probably not going to be any sniper positions on that because it was occupied by sound technicians. And yeah, they should have pushed it out like 500 meters. Then they also look for things like avenues of ingress, where people can enter. They have screening checkpoints where you're supposed to be able to enter into the event, have the magnetic wand that looks for guns or whatever. And I've never been to a presidential election, but I've heard, yes, there is like a metal detection aspect to it. And you would look for all of this. So apparently some mistakes were absolutely made. And I do think some of y'all compiled some other photos just based off of this. This was apparently after the shooting, the suspect's body was on top of the roof. And there was some dispute over whether or not this was like staged or something, because in some imagery you have a dark roof, and some imagery like everything's white, and other imagery, it's white, and there's a difference between like the gray roof and stuff. But based off different satellites and whether or not it's sunny or shadow, it can look from dark gray to white, or maybe it's old imagery, satellite imagery, and they've repainted the top of the house. So we're just going to skip. It seems incontrovertible that this, like the shooter was found here. It's a white roof. We're going to move on with that. Now, one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about was this coverage. They only had, you have the advanced team. And when it comes to security details, you have visible people, right? There's a visible element to security details. So, you've seen in the movies, you see the Secret Service guys with, the plugs in their ears, and they're in suits, and they're standing around the president, and they have handguns. So that's like the high vis body protection, like close body protection that the security guys have. Then you have people in plain clothes going throughout the crowd, low vis, not detectable. They're looking for threats, just visually scanning. And then you have a counter assault team. So we're going to see, when we replay all this footage, you're going to see guys in full tactical gear, ops corps helmets, assault rifles. So they are for like people like a gang or like a mob of people like driving in, breaking down the gate with guns and trying to mob rush or do an actual tactical assault on the president. So you have the the presidential nominee. So you have a counter assault team. So you get the high vis body people. You have low vis guys in plain clothes going throughout the event. You have the counter assault team, and then you have the counter sniper team. Okay. And this is where the law enforcement snipers were. And the fact that there was only one shooting location is kind of absurd to me. You also have this, and if you expand the map out, you can definitely see that there's a water tower here that's like 40 feet that you would have intersecting lines of fire from the top of this roof and the top of the water tower, all from and be able to target things like over here that you wouldn't be able to necessarily engage from the top of the roof. I don't know why anybody was not in that, because look at that coverage that you could get over all these buildings from a higher vantage point than that was over here. Honestly, there should have been somebody on site on the building where he was found. I don't know. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So that's one glaring problem. Of course, operational screw-ups definitely do happen. That's not damning in and of itself. Whoever planned it is definitely losing a job. I've seen bad planning before. Everyone's seen bad planning before. That was an egregious oversight. I will admit it. Okay. So with all that being established, let's get in so no drones. We haven't really heard about drones. And if so, I would like to see some drone footage. But if there were drones on site, I think maybe the FBI has it first, and I think they're going to be classified for a bit. So I wouldn't expect drone footage right off the bat, but let's get into the footage itself. So now that we know that the coverage was crap, that they left there was a ladder for roof access that they didn't find. He was able to get on the roof from the ladder. So either he pre-placed it or a maintenance guy left it. So those seem like the most likely options. And here we go. Let's get into the footage. So right here, somebody has spliced matching up all the audio points. So we have Trump talking, and then we have a series of social media videos and footage from journalists. And all spliced together, we're going to look and see what we can find. So I'm going to make myself smaller, and we're going to look at this. So the one on the left, a lot of people have seen this one so far. It says plenty of time and opportunity to eliminate the threat. WTF.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him?
Okay, so we're at 15 seconds, right? A lot of the crowd starts to recognize a white dude, we're going to come back to this, climbing on top of the roof. And I was never a sniper. I did go through a long-range marksmanship course in Ranger Regiment, which is like a tiny fraction of what sniper school is. You don't learn about like counter-sniper operations or, how to build a hide site or any of the fun stuff, but you do learn about like stable shooting positions for long-range marksmanship. You also have to do math, which I hated because I didn't join the Army to do freaking math, but I always had to do it. Anyways, so the most stable shooting position you can have is prone. So that's like kind of a dead giveaway. Is like, why would you be on the roof in the prone position at a presidential rally unless you weren't trying to do something shady, right? So the crowd identifies him, and we're going to keep going.
He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here.
All right, yeah, they're telling the police. So this also does take time. All right. Again, Harlan's razor. Don't attribute to malice what can be just straight up stupidity and incompetence. So he's informing a local law enforcement officer. Now, that local law enforcement officer has to call it up to the TOC, the Tactical Operations Command, and he's going to talk to a liaison officer from the local law enforcement. Then the local law enforcement liaison is going to turn to the Secret Service liaison and be like, hey, we got a guy on the roof. We should probably look at that. Then the Secret Service guy probably has to contact the sniper team, the counter sniper team on behind the podium to look out and visually clear and positively identify this guy. So this is not something that happens quickly, but this does take a long time. Like does take a little bit of a long time.
Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than it happened. We have the strongest border ever. In recorded history, we had the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much?
Yeah, okay. So we're about 45 seconds in from at least the people who are being recorded on the video are saying something.
Much. You don't
Well,
mind
a
if I
local
go
law
off
enforcement.
teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring. I try and explain that. Oh, there's a...
I just have to say, like, get used to hearing this, like, freaking, like word salad jazz riffing of language. It's gonna be the next 4 years.
Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history.
Okay, real quick. Hey, Jim or somebody in the comments, can we fact check that, there was the lowest amount of illegal immigration under Trump? Is that even a statistic that exists? Yeah, because I don't know. Could just be more fake news. Probably is. But just a side note.
To our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people.
Okay, now we're almost at 2 minutes since the local law enforcement was informed.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you...
Okay, it looks like we got a plainclothes officer, like maybe a sheriff's deputy or something. Local, or maybe it's Secret Service running. It seems to be finally a reaction. Okay. Now, there's a lot going on, right? So first of all, we start to hear the bullets, and we're going to have to talk about ballistic theory and how sound and bullets interact, okay? But first off, I just want to point your attention. See this guy right here at the bottom corner? That in between the flags, that is a guy from the counter assault team. So he's in full like combat gear, right? Then you have if you look above him, there's a guy in red and plain clothes. He could be associated. He could be associated. A guy in plain clothes could be associated with some of the low vis detail. Someone yells, "He's got a gun!" All right. Then we see at the same time we've got the snipers actively looking at him. So one guy, there's two men in a sniper team. There's a shooter and there's a spotter. The spotter is laying prone on the roof, and the shooter is on a knee on a tripod. I mean, tripod is stabilizing. I don't know. It's kind of contentious, but I do feel like the prone is the best position with a bipod. But anyways, he's looking through the scope, and then right now he picks up his head. He just picks up his head, so he's no longer looking through the scope. And then shots, right? So that's kind of it's kind of like, ooh, what happened there? So here's the thing. This is gonna sound. It's not like a hot tip. It's not going to sound crazy. This is actually kind of something that happened. So we've established, right, that was kind of like an empty zone. There should have been someone on that roof. Okay, so the sniper they have eyes on him for like at least a minute, right? So you remember I talked about the communications chain traveling from the civilian to the law enforcement officer to the tactical operations center to the Secret Service to the counter sniper team. Well, if they're seeing a guy on the roof with a gun, there are such things as rules of engagement. We don't really associate that with like modern policing, but there are. So they see a guy on a roof with a gun, right? That's where a law enforcement officer should be. So one of the things you would have to consider, and I would do this too, I'd be like, is he a sheriff's deputy, like climbing onto a roof to cover a place that should be covered? That's a really reasonable thing to be wondering, because you don't want to shoot the wrong guy. You don't want to shoot like another law enforcement officer, right? I guess. So what he would be doing is calling it up. Hey, do we have anybody on the roof? That goes from the sniper to the tactical operations center to the Secret Service liaison, back to the local law enforcement. Local law enforcement guy has to call out, be like, hey, do we have anybody on the roof? That takes more time, and he shoots. So that is also something that is a legitimate possibility that the snipers could have been entertaining. I certainly would not want to shoot someone that wasn't actively trying to engage, the former president. But like, you have to acknowledge that is a real thing, because that happens all the time. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it overseas. Like we were supposed to be in like the most elite military in the world, and guess what? We did stupid stuff, made mistakes out of stupid things that could have easily been fixed, and I completely believe that this is a legitimate possibility. 100%. I've seen comparable things. Now, you may disagree with me, but that is something that you have to take into consideration. The transmission, the time of communication, not having complete accountability, making mistakes at the outset of the operation that you're trying to fix while the operation's going on, that generally ends poorly. So all these things, I mean, it all boils down to incompetence, right? But it's believable. And again, I came into this segment with the intention of applying a philosophical razor to it. So yeah, we got that happening. Now we're going to move on to the shots. Okay. All right. So again, sniper lifts up his head. I don't know why he does that. Maybe he's still waiting for confirmation. If you believe that maybe like someone called and says like, hold your shot. We're going to see what happens. Even if you want to believe that, fine. But he lifts his head up from the scope right before the shots are fired. Okay, real quick before we move on, Sakur Papa says, honest question, why wouldn't all players know all players and their locations beforehand, especially in the counter sniper team? Well, the counter sniper team, they're only two guys. They can't pay. There's like hundreds of like Secret Service, probably some FBI, state law enforcement, local law enforcement. Like how are they going to keep accountability of where all these guys are? Some guys are on the podium in suits around the president as bodyguards. Some people, again, are low vis and plain clothes going throughout the crowd. How would they possibly be expected to keep accountability of all these guys? It's just not possible. And just like, again, you're working with many different departments. They don't have like instant communication between them. This is something that does happen all the time. No, I did not see Judge Napolitano today. Okay, so let's talk about bullets. All right, so here's what's happening. So bullets, we're going to have to talk about this for a second. When you hear a bullet, it's already gone past you, unless you're using subsonic rounds, because bullets are supersonic. So if you've ever been like shot at, people explain a snap hiss. So snap is the air breaking the sound barrier essentially near your head. And the bullet's already passed. And then the hiss is it coming by. So there's a couple of explosions, a couple of sources of sound. There's the initial explosion inside the chamber where the gunpowder is ignited that sends the bullet out. There's the muzzle flash, and then it passes you, and that's the snap. So what we're hearing is the bullet passing, the sound from the bullet passing the microphone in Donald Trump's like lav mic that's attached to his suit. So the bullet's already gone by him. So the first bullet misses him. He turns, and it seems like the second bullet hits his ear because he hears the first bullet, turns, because it's already past him by the time he hears it, hits his ear. He puts his hand up to his ear. Then he goes to the ground. Every president is trained to just hit the ground. He was a president for 4 years. So it seems like that's what he does. So going back. So 2 shots, it seems. It's hard to sort the details, like which are explosions from the point of origin at the gun and it passing the lav mic. But 2 shots first. He sees that he misses, and then the shooter just opens up like with 6 more rounds. So yeah, he misses, probably gets frustrated, starts breaking shots. Yep. And then he kills one 50-year-old firefighter, hits 2 other men, but they're still in stable condition, those 2. All right, so now I think if you can hear it, you can hear the sniper shot that takes him out. Okay.
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
Right there. Okay. So there was like okay, you heard that little a different kind of snap hiss. That was because Secret Service guys were using a different caliber round, so it has a different sound signature. But it was just one shot. I guess they hit him in the head or were enough to unalive him, to use TikTok language. And so there you go. Silencer, technically that's Hollywood crap. We call it a suppressor because a silencer is misleading. It's still really loud with the suppressor on. But yeah, I didn't look at the guns, but they could have had suppressors. All right. And then, yep. That's how it breaks down. It could have taken the snipers, 10 seconds to acquire the target. Because again, he took his head off the scope. Literally, it looks like it's completely explainable in some ways.
News right now. This is Vanessa.
Then he's taking off,
Watch this shit.
and that's all. That's all he wrote. That's really it. I don't see any compelling reason why to believe the teleprompter story, that it was glass from the teleprompter. But again, this is still a developing story based on the information I have and I've read. This is the most reasonable explanation of things. Interagency, communication channels, not knowing that guy wasn't a sheriff's deputy on the roof, and just general planning incompetence. Like, people are gonna get fired after this. This big of a mess up hasn't happened since Reagan got shot and won by a landslide. So that is what we are going to see. So that is my initial analysis of what happened, applying Harlan's razor. Don't attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity. It checks out for me. You may disagree, but you're fired like the staff. But that is one perspective, just using straight up with the information that we have right now. Again, there are complicating factors, like he seems kind of like a cipher. Like, he didn't write a manifesto, didn't have any prior convictions, didn't even own a gun. He used his father's gun. There are some things that are weird, like the ladder being pre-staged. Usually when someone takes a political act like this, they write something. Like, this is why it's kind of weird, because it is unprecedented, but it's not entirely unbelievable. So, yeah, I think, Null says, I think, unfortunately, people overestimate Homeland Security as being infallible. I mean, have you ever worked with the Department of Homeland Security? They can be like fucking block-headed goon squads sometimes, Yeah. LOL, Harvey. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he was also in a BlackRock commercial. I mean, is BlackRock recruiting their incompetent assassins out of, like, acting workshops? I don't know, man. That's a stretch. I'm going to need more to bring hedge funds into this. So again, it's beyond the scope of what I'm just assessing the actual, like, shooting itself. BlackRock commercial, I don't know. I think it might be a little beyond the scope of what I'm prepared to talk about right now. So, could he have gotten paid to take the fall? Okay, so I'm getting asked this from Twitter. I mean, he wouldn't be alive to spend the money. And, like, we don't know that any of his family members have cancer or anything, and they can't afford their, like, bills or whatever, or his father had, like, gambling debts. Like, there's literally no motivation yet. Which is kind of crazy at this point, because it's been, like, over 48 hours. BlackRock made the commercial at his high school. That's probably why he was in there. Mike Priest says, got here late. Was the shooter a victim of bullying? Could he have wanted suicide by cop? Well, we don't know, because he didn't even write a letter. He was described by people who knew him as a loner, kind of a nerd. He did get bullied a bit. That's what they have so far. Again, a developing story. Now, I was going to this analysis actually took longer to explain than I wanted to. I wanted to talk more about the politics behind it and what it means, but I think we're kind of out of time. So we're just going to look at what I think is the best knee-jerk reaction to what happened, and it's by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chris Hedges. If you don't know who this guy is, you should. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, 1 second. Sharing screen again, and then we are going to close out. So yeah, he's basically like, again, this is the best one I've seen yet. The efforts by the Democratic Party and much of the press, including CNN, New York Times, to discredit Trump as if all of our problems are embodied in him are futile. The smug self-righteousness of this crusade against Trump only contributes to the national reality television show that has replaced journalism and politics. This crusade attempts to reduce a social, economic, and political crisis into, what we were talking about. This collusion with the forces of corporate oppression, which have impoverished the working class, fostered endless war, militarized our police, created the largest prison system in the world, licensed corporations to exploit the most vulnerable, and transferred wealth upwards into the hands of the billionaire class, neuters the press, Trump's critics, and the Democratic Party. That's the real thing. There's no vitality in the Democratic Party. It's basically, as I said in the beginning, it's become this thing of vote blue no matter who, and Joe Biden, because we had no other options. We had to choose between fascism light and fascism extra heavy. Same great taste, way more calories. So I think nothing's really going to change. This doesn't really affect the president doesn't really affect who controls like the main center of corporate power. And they're going to want to keep pushing these issues like immigration. And immigration is a great one because it's universally used to distract people from, looking at who's really oppressing them. Oh, it's immigrants who can't afford health insurance, who are incredibly destitute, who are political refugees. They're the reason why you don't have any good jobs. They're why you don't, can't afford to live anymore. It's not the capitalist class, which is monopolizing and controlling all of the wealth, washing money out of the taxpayer money out of the public sector into the private via wars, via government contracts, as CEO pay continues to rise and all this wealth is consolidated amongst fewer and fewer and fewer people. They're going to try to get you to believe that, it's immigrants. It's immigrants. Getting poor people to fight other poor people. That's what we're gonna see, a heightened escalation in this, because again, Trump is the swamp. He will serve the interests of the swamp. So, it's nothing we didn't expect. It's just, how I said things were going to get worse. They're going to get worse. So, Project 2025. Have you read that document? It's like 900 pages or something. I've read a few pages just at random, and oh boy, they're going to try to implement that thing. And I don't know, like just mentally and psychically prepare yourself for what's to come. We are an empire in decline. So I think Biden will be booted out next month. So I just heard, and hey, Jim, can we confirm this if there's any news on this? But Biden has halted his advertising campaign. Like they've halted their ads. So if that's true, that means the Democratic DNC has completely jumped ship. So, yep. Biden has paused campaign ads. So he's done. It looks like the powers that be are like, all right, no more, no mas. It's over. So, all right. We didn't have enough time to talk about the political aspect of this. I just wanted to give an alternative analysis to what I was seeing on social media with conspiracy theory stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but that's just me. So that's just my perspective. Take what you want from it. If you don't like anything from it, disregard. So, okay, let's do some questions, man. We got like 9 minutes left. All right, what do we got? Here we go. Okay, sorry, I'm ignorant, but by Secret Service, is that the federal government or is it because he's a candidate or former president? Okay, so Secret Service, they are part of the federal government. They are not part of the Department of Justice. They're a part of the Department of Treasury. So like they do a lot of like financial crimes investigations and stuff like that. They're plugged into a different apparatus than the FBI. They're meant for it's kind of like FBI comes in for like investigations. Secret Service does more personal protection than the FBI. It's because they have different origins and different purposes. But I'm not the strongest on the origin of the Secret Service. But yes, they are different departments and they do more personal protection. And then once a crime is committed, the FBI will come in and take over the investigation. That's why the Secret Service is not doing this investigation, because that's not their purpose. So I hope that was helpful. Questioning everything and not just accepting force push narratives we are supposed to mindlessly believe. Conspiracy theorists, just a question from form your own opinions and conspiracy theorists. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not trying to use people who believe in conspiracies like as a derogatory cudgel. So, I mean, look, I feel like also I am being gaslit by reality as well. So I understand. Okay, so Mr. Y asks, but Greg, why didn't the officer that was warned talk in the walkie? I think they did. I think they called it up. That's why the counter sniper team transitioned and acquired them on the roof, because they had that communicated to them. It's my personal theory, which who knows, developing story and maybe debunked tomorrow. They were trying to confirm it wasn't like a local law enforcement officer covering a zone that should have been covered from the start. What do you think is going to happen in the next month or two? Oh man, like the news since like October, like everything's sped up. The news cycle is insane. There's like one insane event, unprecedented event happening like every month, every week. I don't know. I'm basically, I used to try to make predictions, but now I just feel like I'm making like reactions, just trying to like keep up. The news cycle is insane and everything's moving so fast. I can't make any predictions. I can only make like easy ones, like Biden's not going to be the next president. Trump is going to be the next president. Netanyahu doesn't want to end the war. When Trump gets into office, he will push for an end to the war in Ukraine, but it won't happen overnight. And he's going to get some pushback from it. And it's going to look, I don't know. If it was a conspiracy, I find it a little odd they would get a 20-year-old to carry it out. Yeah. A 20-year-old whose friends or whose acquaintances said he was a horrible shot. And honestly, it was a 400-foot shot. He was an exposed location. He had an elevation advantage on him. Like, he grew up shooting guns. He should have been able to hit that shot. But then again, he was a 20-year-old, inexperienced. He could have gone for the headshot instead of doing what a professional would try and do, which would be to aim center mass. Because like, even if you miss like a smaller target like the head, you'd at least hit something, and then you could follow up that shot with a second one. So that just speaks to kind of like inexperience as well. There's no way that an organization that has been proven to effectively assassinate people, like, I don't know, the CIA, for instance, would fail. Homeland, what the F is the Homeland? Homeland Security is part of the Treasury. They have a different policy than the president, another fiefdom in the swamp. Yeah. I was talking about the Department of Treasury though, with the Secret Service. I mean, they may have had their own. Are you making a commentary on you don't like Homeland, the term Homeland Security? That I could understand, but all right, the whole thing looks way too theatrical, too staged. It's way too much incompetence to make it genuine, more than I can believe right now, and I do expect a lot of incompetence. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like every time law enforcement hits rock bottom, they find a trap door. You know what they really need? You know what would solve all this and make them more competent? Like, we need to give them more money. Like, we need to actually fund them. That's sarcasm. Okay. Just in case like English isn't first language, but yes. No, I think what's going to happen for us on the left or even the center now, they're going to use this opportunity to further militarize the police, because that's all they want to do. So they're going to blow this up. They're going to be like, the president needs more security. Politicians need more security. And the politicians are going to be like, yeah, I want more security. I love more security. And so they're going to authorize appropriation bills to further militarize the police. That's kind of reductive. That's not how the process would look like exactly, but the performative effect is, yes, they're going to totally, both Republicans and Democrats will totally be on board with this because it's a bit of a uniparty system. So Trump's new running mate, J.D. Vance, oh boy, a freshman senator with like no experience is about to be a freaking vice president. Heck yeah. Awesome. Once called the former president America's Hitler. Mehdi Hassan happened to interview him for a panel discussion on the threat posed by Trump in 2016. Yeah, it almost seems like he's a complete political opportunist, and he will do and say whatever he can to, further his political goals. And, Trump doesn't want a strong vice president. He wants someone that will not be a threat to him. So J.D. Vance, who doesn't have like any standing or any like moral backbone and won't push back. He just wants to be in the spotlight, be near the source of power, because a vice president isn't necessarily a powerful position. He's going to do it. He's going to toe the line. He's going to do what he's told. He's not going to push back like Pence did, even though Pence didn't really push back. So I think he's a great candidate. He doesn't have nearly as much political clout as someone like Nikki Haley does. And Nikki Haley can fight Trump on some issues, but like this guy cannot push back at all. Perfect vice president for Trump. So happy for him. So you guys ready? Are you mentally preparing yourselves? The next 4 years are going to be a wild ride. Nothing is real. I don't know. Okay, look, I'll say this: the simulation is malfunctioning super hard right now. Like, it's a glitch. Can we update it? Is there a patch for this reality? Can we please have a sanity patch? Okay, you know what? You're becoming a hermit for the next 4 years. Okay, well, when you step out of your cave on year 5, you might like step into Mad Max Fury Road. Who knows? Can't predict this. So hope it doesn't come to that. Dumb All Over by Frank Zappa. Yeah, I might check that out later. Yeah, guys. Well, there you go. Our next president. I hope you're as excited as I am. And by that, I mean, not excited very much at all. Yeah, Lewis says, from the outside, the USA, your country looks like it's in a scary place. You should apply for a visa and come over and join us. The more the merrier. Misery loves company. Come over here. It's going to be probably pretty hard to get American citizenship, especially under Trump. So it'd be an impressive feat, and we'd all respect you for it. Come on down, man. The water's nice. I'm just kidding. It's not. Yeah. All right, guys. We are out of time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Even if you don't agree with it, that is what happens, or whether or not you think that's a believable level of incompetence, that's up for you to decide. But yeah, we might follow up on Thursday with more on this, or, we might just transition to the next catastrophe. Who knows? It's an exciting time, right? So thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll see you Thursday. Cheers has been State of Play on Mint Press News. And we're on Patreon, by the way. I was supposed to plug that.